Just a quick update to this AM radio project. Now it takes 4.5 volts actually, because there's 3 C-size batteries. I originally thought it was 4, and it takes a 6 volt. So it seems to be that anywhere in between there is fine. So that's good news for me because I actually had a 5 volt regulator and obviously 9 volt battery, so I can power this up. So I did that last night and I checked it out just with a pair of headphones, and I found that actually it was getting some clicks and whatnot. And when I just sort of started pushing and messing around with touching the board and putting pressure on it here and there, I actually started getting some actual sound out of it, and I could eventually tune in a station or two. So that obviously tells me that there's some problem with some connections. This style of PCB, so I don't think there's actually anything particularly wrong with these sorts of traces and stuff like that. But what I did find is that some of these wires are actually corroded. So even though they give you a nice tone on the continuity check, I suspect that they're actually not very good at passing a lot of current. And obviously, as we looked at it before, there's been a lot of corrosion here. There's a wire here that's actually just broken off. It's flapping in the breeze. Doesn't seem to make any difference when I connect it to anything that I've tested so far, but I think this is actually the tone control, and you really only have 3 different settings for that. So anyway, I think the plan will be some of these wires need replacing, and some of those wires actually back onto some of these capacitors. So I think that'll all just get done at the same time. So the good news is that it means that the repair to this aerial seems to be okay, and I've just sort of used a bit of hot glue at the moment just to sort of stop that sort of sliding about while I'm working on it. Anyway, I want to see if I can get this working, but I'll save you watching lots of soldering, desoldering and swearing as I keep hitting the tripod and all the rest of it. So I think we'll come back to this once I've actually got that sorted and working, and then it'll be time to move on to the cosmetics of the case and stuff like that. This is the bits that I've replaced in that radio. As you can see, a few bits of wire don't have quite the right gauge wire. The wire I have is a little bit thicker than that. Otherwise, I've got really thin wire, so I thought, well, I'll go for the one that's closest, and the closest one is the thick wire. Seems to work all right, and they're the capacitors that I replaced. Now, some of these are just giving me completely bonkers readings. These two, I think there's actually 3 capacitors, and they all read, those 3 read 3 times what their value's supposed to be. So, this is 300, that's 600 and something, and one of these others, I don't know what it is, it's just some crazy value. These others, well, are reading I think this one reads very low, and another one which is supposed to be 10 or 1 or something like that. It reads at some sort of low value, and it just keeps going up and up and up and up and up and up. So it doesn't really give a stable value. Normally, if you at least on this meter anyway, if I were to read this, this is a new Nichicon. If I were to read that, it would tell me that it's actually, most likely it would tell me that that's 100 UF, because a lot of these new capacitors are actually very accurate, very well made. So you get consistency that you probably didn't get almost 50 years ago. So anyway, that seems to explain why now the radio is working, and I can pick up a few stations and the volume is much louder and all that sort of thing. This is just the back side of the case here. As I mentioned maybe previously, this is actually all metal, this front, which is quite unusual because modern ones would all be plastic and they'd just be chrome plated. So I haven't really found anything that sort of hints at being a date code. So 28 sometimes often the first two numbers give a hint at a date code, but 28 is sort of either far too late or far too early. The closest thing that might sort of give it away is maybe the C67. Maybe 67 means it was 1967, built in, 5th month. So, yeah, could be, but I'm not actually convinced. So, I don't know how Toshiba does the date coding, but, I mean, it's not really important. We've got an idea that it's probably about 70, somewhere between 1968 and 1971, 72, something like that. So there's really not much to sort of give that away. This back is obviously just plastic. So, and actually the other thing of note is this battery sort of holder is actually sort of like a compressed cardboard or something like that. There's also a couple of holes here which just have, obviously that sort of sticker over the top. Now, what is the purpose of these? I don't know, because if you look at the circuit board, there's actually some other unused holes and things. So perhaps something is for an external antenna, maybe something is for, I don't know, a power supply. And I think at this time the 2-pin power supplies are actually quite small, and much smaller than we're used to right now. I've got an old Panasonic cassette deck which I haven't actually looked at the moment, but now that I've bought some C-size batteries for this, and it takes C-size batteries as well, so maybe that'll be the next project after this. Okay, so back to the front of the case here. We can actually get almost all of this apart. These clips here, I've seen mostly, or most commonly, I've seen those on, like car trim and car, I don't know, like the badges and stuff like that. So anyway, we can get these apart, and I think we can then get this clear plastic out. Now, I want to actually clean this up, and because this grill is in such nice condition, I don't want to get any kind of overlapping. I don't want to get any polish. I don't want to get anything onto this. So my preferred method would be, if I can get that out, I will get it out and clean it up. I think I might have mentioned before that this window here for the volume, that's actually, I think, glued in. So let's have a look here. Yeah, that seems to be sort of glued in, so I don't think that's going to come out easily, and you risk breaking it. I don't actually think it needs to come out. I don't really think it's that bad that I want to muck around with it too much. And it's the same with that little window there. I don't think I'll worry about that. But this one here would be the main one that, even in the photos when I was looking at this online, I could see that, this looked kind of yellowish and whatever. I mean, you can see there, it's quite badly scratched. So if I can get that out and clean it up, I think it'll look, way better than it does right now. Alright, just proof that that does actually come out. Basically, these clips, you can get a screwdriver in there. I just got like a small screwdriver, and you just work it gently until they come apart, and then you can sort of just lift them off. So I think that makes things a lot easier to clean. So I've got a few different grades of car polish and also some very fine metal polish. So I think I'll use that and see how we go with that. I think it'll come up a lot better than this. It may not be perfect, but it doesn't really need to be. It just needs to be better than this.
日までの予定で、福井北インター、黒部インター間のうち4区間で対面通行規制または車線規制を行っています。詳しくは